I'm going to talk about some new features we've recently introduced into Omniscope related to colouring inside your reports. I'm going to be looking at a data set which is video game data. So if I switch to a table view inside Omniscope, you can see each row represents a video game and the platform, year release, the genre. Then we have some sales data and some critic score data. The main body of this work has been related to how category or text values are coloured. You can see here I've got a number of different charts. Here I've got a bar chart and where I'm splitting by game genre. So we can see the action genre, shooter genre. A pie chart where I'm splitting by the platform, PlayStation 4, Xbox One. And finally a scatter chart where I'm showing the critic score against the global scales on a logarithmic axis. So you can see all of these have a nice set of colours applied to them, and I can talk about now how the colouring works. So if we go to report settings and report styles, you can see there's a section called category colouring and shapes, and you can choose how the colouring is applied to category values. So the first option is the assignment method, and the default assignment method is sequentially from a palette. So here you can choose your palette, the default being Omniscope 30, and the colours will be assigned in order to that palette. So the Omniscope 30 palette is assigned, and you can see the first three colours are blue, orange, and pink. So all of the values in that natural order will follow that palette order. So if I look at name, you can see it follows the palette order, blue, orange, pink, and so on. Likewise, platform, blue, orange, and pink. So basically, you're guaranteed that your palette you defined will apply those colors in that order, in the natural order of the data. Now, we've provided a number of different palettes. So instead of going to the report settings, I'm going to click on the settings tab on the left and style section, and we can get to the same settings from here. So Omniscope 30 is the default palette, but you can easily choose a different palette by just selecting it. So say, for example, I want to use the punchy palette. I can choose that, and you can see the colors are all changed. Likewise, I can change to a dark palette, and those are changed there. If I like, I can define my own palette, so I can modify these. I can change the first palette color to be a purple, for example, or I can define a completely different set of colors. So I can delete all of these and add my palette colors that I want to use. And that can be quite time consuming. So we've tried to make it easier for you to do that with this edit colors option. So if you click this, you can now paste in your colors palette that you want to use. And here you can see I've applied 5 different colors. Perhaps these are my corporate color scheme, and these are the colors that will be used in order. Also, you have the option to add custom common values. So say, for example, I wanted PS4 to be a particular color. You just add custom common value, enter the value, in this case PS4, and now choose the color. So I know that the PlayStation branding color is this hash value here. And now you can see that color has changed. And in the chart, you can see PS4 is now this color. I'll do the same for Xbox. So the combination of color palette and common values will actually really customize how your category values look inside your data. If you decide you don't want to use a palette, you can optionally choose generated by value. The coloring here works differently. So instead of a palette, what it will do is it'll take each value and work out a color for that based on what's known as a hash code of that value, which is essentially converting the value to a number. So all the values are random colors here that don't correspond to any color in particular, but you should get a fairly unique subset of colors. Finally, we've got an option to use legacy coloring, which is the old coloring behavior. And if you open up any old reports, this is the coloring that will be used. This doesn't have the option to do custom global values, but you can still define your own colors as you could before. So if I now switch it back to the default palette with my custom values assigned, you can see how this really improves the look and feel of your reports. So the style section in the settings tab allows you to define how category coloring and shaping works globally across all fields. Now you can fine tune individual fields if you like. So in the data tab, you can click on the three dots menu next to the field that you want to customize. So let's choose platform, and I can individually set each of the values to a different color if I want to. So say if we wanted to make 3DS a different color, I can apply that, and that'll override the global options. I can reset any changes I make here by clicking on the reset button at the top. I can also shuffle these colors, so I can assign them a new order based on the current palette that's selected. So if I select shuffle and shuffle again, I can keep clicking this until I'm happy with the colors that I've selected. Likewise, I can shuffle the shapes. Finally, I could freeze the colors and shapes. So if I click this button, it'll store the current color and shape settings that I have here. So even if I change the palette, for example, to a different palette, the colors for the field that are frozen will be retained. Now for date and number fields, the coloring isn't assigned to each value. We have a min and a max and optionally a mid color. So if we take, for example, the critic score field, you can see here we've got a color for the minimum and the color for the maximum. Now, as is with the category colors, there's a global min and a global max, and that's defined in the style section. And if I open data colors, you can see we've got range start and range end color. If I switch to a chart here, so this is a bar chart where we're splitting by publisher and the measure is the critic score. So essentially we're seeing the publishers with the highest to the lowest critic score. You can see that it's at the moment going from orange to blue, which corresponds to the data color range settings that we have here. So if I wanted to change that and I wanted that to go from red to green, with green being the highest and red being the lowest, I can change that in the style section, and that will apply to every numeric field. Now I can change the style setting for this individual field if I want to. So instead of going red to green, I can set this to go from white to brown.